live button, and it says that we're live. There's a little delay there. It says that we are live for the Westlake Charter School March 9th, 2023 board meeting on the YouTubes. Board President Golick, I believe you have the floor.
Thank you, Dr. Ike. Just as a reminder for those watching on YouTube, you are able to make public comment this evening on anything that we're discussing. Just email admin@westlakecharter.com. Please keep your comments to 250 words or less and put in the subject line which item you're commenting on. With that, Amy, will you please take the roll?
Yes. Hope.
Here.
Sean.
Here.
Josh. Katie.
Here.
Michelle. Meredith. Nurali.
Here.
Shannon.
Here.
Thank you, Amy, and that's a quorum. Which brings us to celebrations. Who wants to celebrate first? Ooh, Shannon, in for this quick hit.
I'm going to start. We talk about celebrating community, so I'm going to celebrate my community tonight, that I was able to come together, and I have just solid neighbors and friends who allow me to borrow their cars and drive them to my house in the pouring rain so that I can make it here. So I'm just appreciative of my community.
Community, love it.
We appreciate your community as well.
Yes, thank you to your community.
Send you with some swag.
Let's see. I just want to celebrate just sports and bring into soccer, and I'm going to get them all wrong, all the different spring sports. Now my brain is like totally blanking. So girls soccer is going right now.
Yes. Boys volleyball.
Boys volleyball,
Yeah.
that's it.
And both teams are looking great.
Yeah, no, and the fact that this board's committed to providing athletics as one of the pieces of making a well-rounded whole student, and seeing the updates. And I'm not sure about tomorrow's soccer game. I feel like it's been canceled. Yeah, I was kind of hoping they weren't playing in the floodlands, but either way, I know, right? Well, it is swim season right now, so come on out. But either way, I just want to take a chance to just celebrate the choices we've made that let us offer those programs.
Love it. Well, you've got athletics. I'll take the arts. We have Missoula Children's Theater rocking on the K-8 side of the house. You gonna do that one? I love it. The red truck shows up. Says Missoula Children's Theater on the side. They unpack the school play, and in 1 week they rehearse it. And this Saturday night and Saturday afternoon, the Jungle Book will be on stage in our K-8. However, simultaneously, our high school students are working on their spring play, and they plan to open it up in May or June. We'll call it Moon. Hey, Dub?
I got a good one. I'm going to celebrate stewardship. We have a duck on campus. She joined us during COVID because it was empty. Campus was empty, and she had a nest. And then our first promotion after we came back, the babies hatched, and they all waddled off right in the middle of promotion. It was a beautiful moment. She's come back, and I'm sure it's not really. It is her, and her name is Amelia Earhart. And she has nested again, and the kids demonstrated stewardship by putting up signs not to hurt her or feed her, that you may look, but you have to stay far away. She moved her eggs this morning, and that was a little bit stressful, but we've got it under control, and everything's fine. So stewardship, and Amelia Earhart, the duck.
Did she leave the eggs on campus?
Yes, they're just in a different location on campus.
Interesting.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
How did she move them? Did she roll them with her?
Really, you're gonna make me do this on the YouTube? She moved her egg.
Okay.
But Sean asked an excellent question. We're gonna be wondering.
Guys, she moved her egg.
Okay.
Got it. We'll tell the third graders that she moved the egg.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some help from a wolf.
There you go. Yes.
All right. I will try to.
That's like a very distressing turn.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, great celebration. Sean,
Sean wanted details.
I'm sorry.
I figured if the vet wanted details, it sounds like
that's fascinating. Tell me more. Sorry, Amy. I will go with another core value. I will go with joyful learning and student-led conferences. So I just went to my son's this morning, and apart from all of the conferencey stuff, it's always fun to see what theme he has chosen for his slides. Last time it was otters, this time it was cats, and so he always likes to put little pictures in and make his slides fun.
Love it. Katie Davis.
Sean Stolmine. It's okay, but I'm just going to roll with it because I have gotten to be a part of student-led conferences on our K-8 campus, and this year I get to be a part of them on our high school campus. And it's just fun to see that extension and watch our students as they talk about planning for their futures. And we're going to graduate students in 2 years, and so they're already talking about what comes next.
Some of us only have one, Steve. Some of us have one.
I am going to celebrate learning process of kindness. My daughter has had this month-long challenge of doing kind acts with people in the community, at school, and I wasn't quite sure if she kind of understood the concept, and this weekend when I was out of town, she came back. When I came back, the first thing she tells me, Mom, I was so kind to our new neighbors. I helped pick up the trash that fell out of their garbage, and I introduced myself, and I was like, where was Dad? And she's like, oh, Dad was in the garage with, brother. He was helping with the helmet, but I did that, and no one told me what to do, and just like that excitement and that understanding of kindness, it kind of also stemmed that her physician had given her, she gets an annual book for a checkup, and it was Be Kind, and she is just so excited about this, and I was like, oh my God, you're growing up, is what I felt.
Seriously, don't blink.
I will celebrate interviews have started. So we have some incredible teaching staff, and incredible staff, and we get to talk to folks who may want to join this team. And it's always an exciting time as organization grows, and that has started. So it's always fun to talk to staff, potential staff, and see who might want to come aboard. It's always a good time.
I'm going to do one more.
You may.
'Cause
You're the boss.
It's my prerogative. I just want to celebrate that CCSA is bringing out a group of educators next week. That, for me, that's always been a very valuable part of the charter mission and sort of being that incubator and sharing new ideas. And I love the fact that this campus, like when new interviewees come on, or we tour people, it just always feels like this moment where Westlake gets to shine. And so I just want to celebrate that, and I think it's just fabulous that they're coming.
I love me a good tour, too. I just love giving a tour of Westlake Charter School. It's so much fun. Yeah, we have a whole busload of charter educators coming from the CCSA conference next week to come tour both our campuses. It was super cool.
And for me, too, it's not like Missoula. Life is getting, it's normal now, I guess. It's a new normal. But all these different pieces, right, brings me back to just things being new again and then also old at the same time. This sort of, it's nice when traditions start to repeat themselves again.
Yep.
So.
It's fantastic.
With that, are there any other board comments on matters not on the agenda? Seeing none, have we received any public comments?
No, ma'am.
And there's no public here. Mr. Seamus, is anyone there to make a comment?
There are no members of the public to comment tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So with that, we'll go ahead and go to reports. Amy, do you happen to have Amber's report up? Perfect.
I do. Yep, totally do. She says, Science night was great. We had a mix of new and returning families attend. I thought it was super cool that some of our high school students hosted the booths, and there were pictures of them doing science experiments with the littles. I always love to see the bigs and the littles. That's not in her thing, that's just me, sorry. WAVE is planning a movie night on both campuses for the end of the month. 8th graders will be invited to the high school. They're in the big leagues now. The International Festival is on April 29th at the K-8 campus. They are still seeking cultural booth hosts, so jump in on that. Planning a game night at the high school campus in May. And, oh my gosh, the fireworks booth is back this year. Oh, that is so exciting. The booth, it is. The booth is specifically supporting the high school athletes and clubs this time, which is very, very cool. That's Amber's report, and she apologizes for not being here, and we'll see her next month.
Love it.
Perfect, thank you. And then, Shannon, I asked John to do impact. Are you good with that? Okay.
Okay, great. Yeah, our Charter Impact Committee had a fantastic meeting last month where we kind of rallied around the topic of writing a white paper, an informative white paper regarding the achievement gap. And I think we're on pace. We did some outlining of what were our research questions for the white paper and what are our next steps. And our next steps are going to be doing a bit of a literature review for the white paper so that all the authors of the white paper could kind of be on the same page. In fact, just today I was reading and kind of annotating the LAO's report on achievement gap. I'll be distributing that to the team. And then Dr. Galloway is actually curating a couple of pieces for us. And then we have one article from Tom Game, who's a family member here at Westlake, and he's going to be contributing in that way. So our impact team's got some cool work to do. At the next meeting, we intend to kind of go over the lit review, agree on some terms, and then we'll go into some analytics in the subsequent month. And then what we'll do is hopefully curate some like recommendations from the team, like, hey, these are areas the school might want to look into, or some adoptable best practices, things like that. So it's an exciting moment.
Thanks, John. Nirali, would you mind? Oh, perfect, for development. Thank you.
Yes. Development, we are really working towards our big day of giving, which is coming May 4th. And we are going to ask all board members to really help participate. There is going to be a template. An email will be sent to ask using your social media handles and kind of the blurbs we'd like you to put on there, including links, to really reach out to our community members to help with this big day of giving. So please look out for that in the coming weeks. We'll make another announcement next month, but we're really working hard on that and really kind of just fine-tuning some processes internally, which will allow us to really streamline our communication with our vendors, explore partners, and businesses in hopes of really trying to get them involved in our processes moving forward and really bring them involved with any school activities we see as fit. Any questions? Look forward to that email.
Thanks, Nirali. Sean?
So finance met early, so it seems like forever ago because it was before break. And we did second interim, which is on tonight's board agenda, and finally started our book review of Culture Code for the second time. General sort of overview of it in the last meeting, and then we're going to start a more specific dive into different parts of it in upcoming meetings.
Thanks, Sean. And then governance met tonight. We are still developing sort of what our next steps are for our cohort group, and working on a sort of a written application question process, and then how interviews will flow after that. But it's still very much in process. So you'll hear more about it coming, but it was a great discussion. With that, Dr. Ike, I turn it over to you.
Fantastic. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. I'll be here all night. All right, here we go. What do I got? Slideshow there. Microphone on. What could go wrong? Well, we'll do some celebrations. We'll do some strategic actions, and we'll do some updates. I was going to do the academic report tonight as well. In fact, I was preparing to have our Director of Curriculum Instruction, Jennifer Kayau, present. But we have a couple of board members out tonight, and I decided to remove the academic report from this month and punt it to next month because I know at least one of the board members who couldn't be here tonight loves that piece, and so we're gonna bring that back next month, and it shortens my 86 slides down to just 35. So really a win for all of us. Lots of great celebrations. I mean, this is that time of year. We are eking into spring, and there's tons to celebrate. The 8th grade spoken word and our recipients of the golden mic up there in the far right corner. I mean, our 8th graders, you know, they utilize the spoken word project as this great opportunity to express themselves, but also use like figurative language. We know that the spoken word, they have to do a kind of slam poetry or spoken word, but they have to integrate the concepts of science where they study Newton's laws. So you'll find spoken words like gravity, it keeps me down, which is funny, right? And so they're integrating both science and humanities together to bring out their own voices in this project, and it crushes every year. I mean, there's laughter, there's tears, there's vulnerability. Our kids are great, and what it does to the 8th graders is it launches the spring in a way where they kind of break down some walls, and then for the rest of this spring, it all kind of culminates in that Santa Cruz overnight field lesson. And so this is a magic moment at Westlake Charter School. If you've been here since kindergarten or you just got here yesterday, this is a great time, is to be an 8th grader in the spring. It's always a great time to have a lizard on your arm. In-house field lessons from Explore Science Center, and we also had Family Science Night. So a lot of science going on at Westlake Charter School this last quarter. Hello, Mr. Krell. This is a wave from the wave meeting. We just want to celebrate our wave parent team. They're at the center of all things that happen around here, from from cool events like Science Night to Movie Night that's coming up. So I want to shout them out for sure. Our K-10 counselors have really they had a great month this last month, launching Healthy Relationships campaign, which is funny because it's around Valentine's Day, right? Like, how do you say, how do we have healthy relationships? So really, kindergarten all the way through 10th grade is this really cool opportunity to talk about social emotional learning, self-awareness, social awareness, but through this idea of how do we have healthy relationships? What do healthy relationships look like? And that manifests very differently from a kindergartner who should learn to have healthy relationships to a 10th grader who's looking for a date to the dance. It's just a really cool topic, really proud of the work that the team did, and it really vertically aligns with everything we do. Speaking of healthy relationships, nothing cooler than a middle school dance. Right there, the middle school dance was amazing. First of all, shout out to our parents, our staff, the people who organized it, but the kids had a blast. It was super good fun, and I just, you said a moment ago, like, oh gosh, the things we couldn't do, and the traditions we're happy to bring back, like there was a couple years there where we couldn't have a dance. And I am telling you, as awkward as a middle school dance is, it is a must. Rite of passage. It was super cool. Great job to everybody there. Hey, you spoke to athletics tonight. This is the first time our girls basketball team could have been eligible for playoffs, because last year we were not a CIF eligible participant because we were in our probationary year. Our girls basketball team, remember, our varsity girls basketball team has only sophomores and freshmen, right? And they made the playoffs, and I'm telling you what, you should be so impressed with these young women. I mean, athletics, yes, but also just who they are as athletes and students and community members. What a great squad. I think I put up a slide last month where they all went out to the Sac State women's basketball game. Yeah, what a great group. Coach T, you can see down there in the right corner, is just an inspirational leader. We should all be lucky enough to have a Coach T in our life who, of course, teaches them to be good basketball players, but I think teaches them to be really amazing human beings. So great program, great success, a celebration of everything that kind of is Westlake. And this is like we should have done a game, like, can you guess the field lesson? Because every one of those pictures is somewhere different, doing something different at a different grade level. And it is the season of field lessons right now, you guys. It is so much fun at Westlake Charter School. There's a bus in the parking lot seemingly every day, and our kids are heading off to either B Street Theater or Mozak or hanging out outdoors on a rock. It's really a good time right now. Speaking of good times, here's high school conferences. I don't know if we have another picture of one of our K-8s, but parent-teacher conferences, right? This student-led conference piece, really, that starts in kindergarten. Jen Kaya was telling, sorry, Jen, it was saying, hey, her little kindergartner did a student-led conference today. And there's our with 10th graders doing student-led conferences. And what's the power of that? Well, the deal is, like, we know that a lot of high schools have a senior project, and it's that time where we've prepared a 12th grader to stand in front of a crowd of people and say, I set a goal, I tried hard, there were some barriers that I had to overcome, I persevered, and this is my success. And if you wait till 12th grade and can get a kid to do that, that's awesome. Here at Westlake Charter School, our kindergartners are saying, I set a goal, there were some barriers to it. I overcame those barriers. I persevered, and now here's my success. And if your child does that twice a year, every year from kindergarten, by the time they get to 12th grade, they'll probably sell you a car at their senior project, and you'll probably buy it. Like, I just love that we do this thing, kindergarten through 12th grade, and it goes so well. This is really neat. Right here in this room, John Hall came out. He's from our SELPA, and worked with some of our educational specialists, our instructional aides, our school psychologists, and our counselors on an autism training, and it was really powerful, especially for some of our instructional aides or who have less training in this area. This room was chock full of people who benefited from that PD. I was really proud of the work that they did there. Shout out to Sabrina Jackson and her team for putting that together. And finally, you may have heard me celebrate this earlier, but the Missoula Children's Theater has arrived, right? They pull it up to our school in a red truck that says Missoula Children's Theater. And in the back of that truck is a set for a school play and music and costumes, and they auditioned on Monday, and on Saturdays the show. It costs $1 to get in, or you could bring a can of food for Joey's Food Locker and come on out and enjoy the show on Saturday. There's an afternoon show at 3 p.m. and an evening show at 5:30 p.m., and the show is The Jungle Book, and it is family fun, and it's going to be fantastic. I love me some theater, so let's all celebrate. All right, we'll dive in. We'll do some strategic actions. It's really one big strategic action, but it's about 27 slides. So here we go. I try to keep it down to one thing. It's really long. But I really want to tell you about this conversation we had as a staff on February 15th. So on February 15th, as staff were kind of about to go off to February break, we took a pause and said, hey guys, we're about 30 months away from June of 2025, which is a significant date, because it will be the first time that we graduate students from our school. You all know that we opened our school in 2005. I've told this joke before. It will have taken us 20 years to graduate our first seniors, at which point we will do it every year after that. But we kind of looked around the room. We're like, hey, where are we at? We think we got the pandemic in the rearview mirror, but we're still on the comeback in several ways. Who are we? Where are we in this moment? And where are we going? And so we talked about some things that I want to tell you that we talked about. And I tried to contextualize them in some of my goals, and some of our board goals, and some of our strategic plan goals. So the first thing I want to recognize is one of my goals that you gave me this year was to reconnect our community by onboarding new leadership to embrace the commitment that all voices are valued and heard within the systems of Wesley Charter School. You'll see that theme bubble up in just a moment. My third goal is to continue to remain focused on the success of our high school expansion, which we're obviously talking about. We're on the path to 2025, right? Also, that permanent high school facility, I couldn't help highlighting that because we will talk land acquisition tonight. So in this conversation, we started off with a demonstration that all voices are heard regarding recruitment and retention. At the last board meeting, I talked about that survey. I said, hey, staff, if you were going to recruit a friend to work here, or if you're thinking about working somewhere else, let's get some feedback. And based on that feedback, the board took some incredible actions, and we celebrated that. But, goal area 2, objective 4, including staff voices. Also, goal area 1, objective 1, recruit and retain. This is very mission-aligned, strategically plan-aligned work. We talked about compensation and time, much like we talked about at the board, and there was a big thank you. I mean, there was literally a round of applause, huge thank you to this board, and I want to shout you out. We talked about the work that you did around increasing comp, the 2% one time, the increased years of service from 7 to 15, the 2 days of optional work, the spring break placement. That was actually really, I just want you to know the fact that you took the feedback from staff and said, yes, spring break should fall here to make this an even year. Very impactful. And we even talked about increasing our sick days from 10 to 12, which we did really last year. But again, I want to remind everybody that that was something that not every school has done, not every board has done. And so it's big kudos to you. With that kind of on the table of saying, hey, we hear you. We hear where we are in the reality of 2023 in the workforce. We're all exhausted. Compensation matters. Cost of living matters. With that on the table, we said, okay, let's talk about how we operate at Wesley Charter School. Let's talk about shared leadership. And again, shared leadership in the context of being able to innovate for what this school and this industry needs right now. So anybody who's watching closely in the education industry recognizes, like, we're at this place where people used to be like, I'm in it for all these reasons. Now people are like, I'm exhausted for all those reasons. And let's be honest, there should be some work-life balance. We shouldn't be, this industry that just buries our people in expectations and underfunds it, and right? So I think you as a board are doing a great job of saying, hey, let's make sure compensation and time and things matter. But this shared leadership piece matters, and what should we be innovating around? Part of it's around like the way we do what we do. And this shared leadership team got together. Goal area 1 is continuing to improve our shared leadership model, and goal area 1.4 is being receptive to new ideas and innovations. This team got together and introduced this co-crafted annual activities calendar, which is super cool. So that they're able to say, hey, Red Ribbon Week's got to be here because it's Red Ribbon Week. But could we ask WAVE, maybe if Olympic Triathlon could slide this way and Fall Festival could slide this way? Because right now as a teacher, I'm doing Red Ribbon Week, Fall Festival, Olympic Triathlon, parent-teacher conferences, report cards, all that. That's a tough week, right? So having input into the way that we do what we do, was a value add for the staff from this shared leadership place. Increased value to overnight field lessons, protected preparation and collaboration time, really setting the context of like, hey, how do we know when this time is ours and when this is time that like, oh, John wants to meet with us, and when our alarm will go off? You know, you never know. And the last one, I love this one, and it's kind of an innovation that we're going to try as a pilot, and it's an innovation to embed committee work into the day. Right now, if you're part of the PLC committee or the DNA committee or the leadership committee or the PBIS committee, after the bell rings and after you do dismissal and after the kids go home at 3:30, you come to a committee meeting, you know, well, we can't start at 3:30 because the high school doesn't get out till, okay, now we start at 4. Well, that thing goes until 5 o'clock. You're like, okay, well, it's 5 o'clock. How many times? Well, it's twice a month. Well, you also have 2 staff meetings that go until 5 o'clock. Okay, that's 4 times a month. I'm staying an extra hour. Oh, but also, if it falls on a week where you're in the leadership committee, and then the next day is the staff meeting, and the next day is professional development, you're like, that feels like a lot of time we're spending after school. What would happen if we embedded this into our professional development calendar? So we're all pretty excited about this potential innovation that frees up the afternoon for staff, but like embeds us all in committee work during the day. So we'll report back, let you know how it goes. But this is a real exemplar of staff sharing the leadership of how we operationalize all the things we have to do. And it was a really cool conversation at our meeting on the 15th. Now, the last thing we did is we started to contextualize, like, okay, we are on the path to graduation. I'm going to give you just a couple little indicators of how we're going, and then we're going to talk about goals that we've set out for ourselves and the impacts and investments that that's going to take. I told them that enrollment is strong. I mean, as you know, there are over 1,600 applicants in the lottery for this Monday night. That is wild, right? I told our staff, hey, that is true because of you, because of what you do. And we felt good about that. You know, it's funny to think about, remember when we opened the high school and we thought we were going to have 85 freshmen? And now you got 112 eighth graders over here, and you have 165 applicants in the tank. I mean, you put those two numbers potentially together, and we can only, at max, put 150 in our freshman class. You go, hey, wow, we are way ahead of schedule. It feels really good. I talked to our staff about our land acquisition. I'll talk a little bit more about that tonight in updates, but that's very exciting news for our staff to know that, you know, within walking distance of where we sit right now is our future home. And we said, so what do we have to do between now and June of 25? And one of the big things that we think we need to do is really work hard on clearly documenting our K-12 Tier 1 practices. What does that mean for the non-edu folk? Well, the idea is this, like we have a very robust set of interventions that we do for what are called Tier 2 or Tier 3 practices. Tier 1 is what everybody gets. And the better we do at Tier 1 practices, the better I do at putting my laundry in the hamper, Tier 1, the less Tier 2 pickup I gotta do throughout the week. Does that make sense? So the better we are at Tier 1 reading and mathematics and social science and PE and Spanish, Tier 1 practices, making sure kids kind of get it the first time, the more we invest there, the less interventions or intensive work has to happen. So we look at our model right now as a full inclusion school, recognizing that we have a lot of kids with a lot of needs. We're already going to have to serve those kids incredibly well. What we do at Tier 1 really matters. So we want to have very clear documentation. We're talking about building a self-perpetuating, ongoing professional development ecosystem that houses practices that have videos and documentation so that as you onboard new people, or if people have been here for years and they're like, you know what I'm not great at? I'm not great at, I see you pulling small groups, and you're always able to work with those small groups while other groups are doing something else. I just haven't figured that out. Oh, really? Here's a great resource that we've built for you, and we have one of our TOSAs who can come and walk you through it. So we're trying to build this system with really robust documentation, including videos and resources, to get here. So by the time we get to 2025, we'll have K-12 aligned practices into an ecosystem that's self-perpetuating, that will grow beyond 2025. That's really well aligned with Goal 3, Objective 1, which is blueprint our curriculum, instruction, and assessment practices. We're going to have really strong internal capacity for these defined practices. So while we build this ecosystem, we're going to be using these resources to do a lot of coaching in the last 3 years, while we've been not conducting school normally, we've hired a lot of new people. So they've onboarded to a place where they're like, I hear you guys do something that, like we have a couple teachers who started during distance learning. They're like, my first year here, I didn't see the children. I had to have them turn on their camera before I knew what they looked like. Like, these people maybe didn't onboard to our fullest practices, sort of spend the next 2 full years developing modules for what are our best practices, and then utilizing those modules to build capacity within our current staff. And then the last piece is we're going to be able to utilize those resources to onboard future teachers. The idea is we really want to build a robust set of practices, use those practices to build capacity, and then have those resources for future staff as well. So we have some announcements about how we're going to do that work. It includes some staffing changes, which I told you about via email, but I'll tell you again on the YouTubes. What will we have to do to make this launch to 2025 happen? The very first one is some shifts in administrative leadership. You maybe have all heard by now, Mrs. Emily Batten will be promoted to the Director of K-12 School Leadership. Well, what does that mean? Emily Batten is an incredibly successful high school principal, was an incredibly successful elementary and K-8 principal. This is the perfect person to be the supervisor of our 2 campus principals. She will help both principals operationalize all the daily operations, but also as we start to build capacity in our teaching staff, especially staff who are either new to the organization or onboarded during a tricky time, she's going to be there to help the principals work with the TOSAs and the vice principals to bring people up to that capacity that we want everyone to have by 2025. So if Emily Batten's going to become the K-12 director, you might ask, who will be the principal? In the fall, our very own Lila MacGyver will be promoted to high school principal. We're very excited about that move. She has spent this year with Emily. We'll spend the rest of the year with Emily. And Emily, of course, will be her supervisor next year. So then who will be? Well, there you go. We will be hiring a high school assistant principal. And in that survey that we talked about through shared leadership, you recall one of the things that people said they might leave the organization for, some of it was time, some of it was finances, compensation. But what was that next thing below compensation and time? It was promotability. I would go to a larger district so I could get a job above my current position in the organization. So hiring a high school assistant principal opens up a position like that. We love that. It's super exciting. There's one more piece that doesn't totally fit into the model, but I just have to announce it because it's heartbreaking, and it is that we will hire a coordinator of special education to replace the irreplaceable Sabrina Jackson. So I just want to announce that Sabrina Jackson is leaving at the end of this year. She'll work through the end of the year, but she's got a high school senior next year and lots of things going on that takes her away, but we'll be opening up that position internally as well. So there's a couple of great administrative positions that are available for promotability. And then to complete the work we want to do around that blueprinting exercise where we build those modules and do some coaching, we're hiring 2 teachers on special assignment that we're calling capacity building TOSAs. They will help us build capacity from now until 2025. These positions are beginning in the fall, but they're only funded through 2025, at which point we will sunset, and those teachers will still have a place within the organization, and that's already understood for anybody that applies. It's a 2-year funded position that will get us to that spot in 2025. All of these positions will be interviewed prior to spring break and filled prior to spring break, not starting until fall, but at least we'll know who's moving out of a classroom so that we can start to backfill those positions. I know that's a lot. All that does fit into the budget that we'll be presenting in June. But any questions about these pieces at all? Super cool. The updates are short. The land acquisition piece, we are on track to close escrow. In fact, we would be closing escrow this month in the month of March, but we are exercising our first 30-day option to extend. Remember that extension is for us foregoing $75,000 or deposit becomes non-refundable. But as we do close on the property, that $75,000 was part of the original deposit that was going to go toward the property anyway. So there's no loss if we do complete the project. Now, we intend to complete the project, but our justification for taking this extension option is that we're on schedule for the CDE, or California Department of Education, site approval, but we just if it's only 30 days, we'd love to have the full approval prior to closing. Now, there's no guarantee that we'll have it, but it really looks like we're right on track, like, oh, we're within days. So we thought, hey, go ahead and do the extension. The other thing is that, the Club Center Lane Road construction, which is called, the Backbone Project, the project's been accepted. They have a low bid accept. They're in negotiations on it right now. And there's just a little part of us that would prefer to close on our parcel after their negotiation is complete. So if we see wet ink that says, yes, this construction agency is building these plans and we know it's done, it just makes us feel better. So again, if we could punt for 30 days and it really costs us nothing, and we can get 2 wet ink signatures, one from the CDE and one from the road construction, that feels good. The other piece is, we're in the middle of the FUA negotiation still with Natomas Unified School District. I don't know if you saw or not, but they have posted a request for bid for a facilities master plan FMP project. So this is what our goal is, right? Is to get our parcel included in their portfolio so that it can be included in their facilities master plan. So timing-wise, their FMP project, I think, is going to launch in June. Is that a true story? I feel like the request for bid closes in June.
May, and then it's anticipated to be done by June of 24.
But the request for bid closes in
Yes.
May. That's what I was thinking, June. Okay, copy. Yeah, so there you go. The timeline on that's lining up. We'll report back on anything that comes up. Any questions on the land piece? Super duper. And last thing, I just want to let everybody know that 1,642 people have applied for this year's lottery, and on a Monday, we'll be holding our random public lottery. It will be at 5 p.m. And anticipated to be completed within 1 hour because it's all digital. The results will be emailed to all applicants that evening, so by the end of the evening, all 1,642 people will have received an email with whether or not they got a spot or on the wait list, and then all of the results will be posted publicly on our website by the end of the week. Members of the community can certainly come and watch us do our work in person. We'll be in the cafeteria. If anyone wants to come and watch that, it'll be a ton of fun. Or they can just wait and receive their email notification if that's what they would prefer. Any questions on lottery? Fantastic. Let's see. Back to you, Board President Golick.
That would bring us to our consent agenda. John, have we received any public comments?
Let me check. Dear Dr. Ike, that was a brilliant presentation. No public comments. Sorry.
Normally I'm the spicy
I
one.
know, I'm sorry. It's silly.
So with that then, our consent agenda has 3 items on it this evening. Are there any board questions regarding the consent agenda? If not, I would ask for a motion to approve.
I'll move.
Thank you, Josh. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Nerali.
Hope,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Josh,
Yes.
Katie,
Yes.
Nurali,
Yes.
and Shannon.
Yes. Thank you. That brings us to our first regular agenda item, which is accept and approve the 22-23 second interim budget.
All right, let's talk budgets. Will you mind drive?
You want to throw your camera on just so that YouTubes can see that face of yours?
Yeah. Is it
Come
ready for it? I
on.
don't know. Let's see. We all have to do what you gotta do. All right, hold on a second.
There we
There it is.
go.
All right. Would you mind driving?
You're welcome.
Who's that?
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Well, good evening, everybody. So we're taking a look at WCS's 22-23 second interim budget tonight. The second interim budget is everything that has happened since the start of the adopted budget all the way through the end of January 31st. It's kind of the second checkpoint during the year. First interim was done through October, this is the second point, and then there's the year end. So we'll walk through the budget tonight and some slides and changes that have been made throughout the year. So just Very briefly, as a nonprofit really that runs a school, there are some due diligence factors that need to come into play and some fiscal timelines. You can see kind of the green highlighted row there, the second interim budget. Again, kind of reiterates everything that I just said regarding from July 1 through January 31st, and it needs to get approved by the board by March 15th. So we are right in line with where we need to be. If anyone's looking at other agendas, you'll note that NUSD approved theirs last night. So just kind of the cadence of things, everyone's kind of approving their second interim budgets right now. So we're, again, in line with where we need to be. On to the next slide, you can kind of see kind of what's in the second interim budget. So similar to the first interim and adopted budget, it's really all the revenues and expenditures that we have seen or anticipate to be seen over the course of the rest of the year. It includes updates from our local revenues, information from school services and other agencies we get information from. So really it's kind of a readjustment of the budget up through kind of what is known through that point. Also includes projections from the governor's January proposal. So the governor, you recall, came out in January, made a proposal going into next year. So it includes those kind of adjustments and refinements as well. So on the revenue side, within the second interim budget, you can see that the ADA has somewhat stabilized. We're anticipating a 94% average daily attendance, or ADA, right now. When the attendance came out, what's called a P1, kind of the official kind of read from the state, was slightly under 93%. Overall, not too surprising, given we had a little early flu season, and in the wintertime, can we see attendance dip, and then in the spring, it picks back up. So we're still budgeting on 94% attendance for the entire year, and hopefully we'll kind of hit that mark, and we'll get closer to that as the year end comes. And actually, it's ticked up a little bit since that period, so we'll see kind of if we can hit that target. On the kind of other noteworthy sides on the revenue, the state, as you may recall, and the governor, when he came out, is projecting just a small deficit of about $22 billion. That has changed a little bit. You may hear it's $25 billion or so. But again, so looking into next year, the governor is projecting kind of a tough year ahead. So we'll continue to watch that as our vendors and folks come together and provide more guidance to schools on what next year is going to look like. Again, you recall the governor is going to come out again in May with his May revised update, and that's what we'll use to build actually the budget for into next year. There's still a lot of risks out there, as we generally know, right? There's geopolitical risk. Inflation is still kind of peaking and it hasn't really come down. Interest rates are high and potentially going higher because, again, inflation has not come down to where the Fed has wanted to come down to. The market is still extremely volatile. The stock market, that is volatile. So there's still a lot of risk out there in the market, which has probably led to the governor kind of projecting that deficit going into next year. One of the key points into the budget on the revenue side is the governor has really drawn down one of the earlier grants. That's the Art, Music, and Instruction grants. So because those funds had not yet come out, the governor has kind of reduced those coming into this year. So you'll see that reflected in the second interim budget. And then on the upside, you'll see some donations have come in from Silicon schools. So as you look at that donations line, there's a nice little uptick from there because of our partners at Silicon schools. So all in all, the revenues have been adjusted accordingly. On the expenditure side of the house, it's good to see that our second interim is fairly consistent to our first and our adopted on the kind of larger scale of things. And that's particularly helpful as we go into kind of budget development season, which we are now. As we look at next year, we can start to base some of those predictions based upon our actual current year expenditures. So it's helpful to see, okay, you've got some solid predictions and actuals coming to the second interim point, and that really helps us build the budget, or start to build the budget for next year. Some noteworthy points on the expenditure side. We just talked about, John just talked about, we're still in escrow on the purchase of a parcel, that $6.2 million parcel. That particular budget line is not listed in the budget yet because we have not closed on it yet. So when we do close on it, that will get kind of put into the budget, and we would see that again at year end. Something else to consider, we've talked about this a couple times before, is that the CalSTRS and PERS contributions continue to increase. So right now in 22-23, kind of current year, it's a $1.7 million expenditure line, going to 24-25 because of growth in staff and growth in compensation. It's anticipated to grow to slightly more than $2 million. So it's a pretty significant line item when you think about it. We were nearly a $20 million organization, and you've got $2 million dedicated to CalSTRS and PERS contributions. Again, percentage-wise, it's a fairly big chunk. And then the chart below here will just show kind of the increasing PERS and STRS contributions that are predicted over the next few years. Kind of how to read this chart. If you look at CalPERS and it says 25.37%, kind of what does that mean? It means for every dollar we pay to a CalPERS eligible employee, we pay CalPERS 25 cents. So those nickels and pennies and quarters begin to add up, and in the end, they equate to $1.7 million this year, and again, growing in the years out. So it becomes quite a bit bigger over time. Another way to look at the budget is great old pie charts, right? We all love the pie charts. This just simply shows that most of our revenue comes from state funding. So that's the LCFF and the EPA funds. Again, those are really state-driven funds. Something interestingly enough on this is that kind of green other state slice of the pie there is incredibly large this year because of all the one-time funds that have come from the states. Usually that sits 5% to 6%, and right now it's 14% because there are literally millions of dollars that are planned to come in from the state in this particular year in itself. On the next pie chart, you can kind of just see where the money goes, right? So the slide, or the pie chart on the left was like how the money comes in, and this one is where the money goes. And so you can see the majority of it, about 78%, goes towards staff and staff benefits. Chunk here is for kind of services, about 14%. But a lot of those services really are also people. They're just not people on staff. So you may think about some of our providers for special education or law and order or clean it, right? Those are staff that we have here, they're just not on staff. If you were to include those in kind of the staffing slice of the pie, our kind of percentage would go from like the high 70s to the low 80s. So again, it's also significant. This just shows kind of another comparison, a year over year. You can see, period over period. So you can see our adopted budget in that leftmost column there. Next to it is our first interim, and then here we are, second interim. Kind of a little bit towards the bottom there, you can see our anticipated ending balance is about $1.7 million this year. Next year, about 1.4, and the year after that, about 1.7. In these next few years, we have the last really 2 years of growth within the organization as we grow into 11th grade and grow into 12th grade, our seniors. And so we've got kind of significant enrollment growth there. And as well as some staffing costs built into that as well. It's important to note as you look at the, kind of these year-end numbers, this was as of the end of January, right? So in these past few months, a compensation proposal has been passed. We've made some staffing adjustments and changes. So all of those things are not reflected in this budget, but they will certainly be reflected in the budget that comes before you in June. Yeah. And I think the last slide is the last slide. So overall, the budget continues to be positive and resilient. We look at positive cash flow as well in the coming years. So I'm open to any questions you might have or would look for your approval.
Sean, did you want to make any comment as the finance chair?
Nothing specific, just to thank Steve for all his hard work as usual on both the budget and the presentation. Thank you.
Excellent work.
Are there any other board questions? If not, is there a motion to approve?
I will move.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Thank you, Nerali.
Hope,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Josh,
Yes.
Katie,
Yes.
Nerali,
Yes.
Shannon.
Yes.
That brings us to our second item for tonight, which is accept and approve the comprehensive school safety plan.
I tried to make as many slides as I could. It's really just one slide, but I'm try to lengthen it. Just a reminder, the Comprehensive School Safety Plan, is part of Education Code, originally passed as a Senate Bill 187. It includes 10 mandated sections. All of them are included in our Comprehensive School Safety Plan. Requirements require that we have a committee that includes one teacher, one parent, one classified, which we fulfilled that with our safety committee, and requires board adoption, which is what we're seeking tonight. These are the 10 components within the plan. I don't want to bore you with it, but I just want to remind you what is in this, right? Assessment of current status. This is a portion of the plan that was reviewed by the committee. Thank you, Sean Berman, for going through it and giving some feedback. So I appreciate your noting eye on the document. Child abuse reporting procedures are straight out of our board policy 0718. Disaster procedures routine emergency. We use a vendor to produce this emergency report for us, and we now have this flushed out for both the K-8 campus and the high school campus. We did a little extra work with this vendor this year to make sure that both campuses were re-walked since we originally walked the campus when we first did the report under construction. So that was really good. Policies and procedures would lead to suspension. That is our board policy 0731. Procedures to notify teachers and policies prohibiting discrimination. Those are also board policies. Provisions for site dress code is in our family handbooks. Safe egress is in our memo system. Procedures that create safety and orderly environment is family handbooks, as are our rules and procedures on discipline. Those are all appropriately filed inside here. If this passes tonight, I will need some signatures from some committee members, but then I will take this and forward it to the Natomas Unified School District and have them have a copy on file since they are our authorizer. I appreciate the committee's work. Thank you for reading through this very short and easy to read document. And I appreciate the feedback that made it a better document. Any questions about the Comprehensive School Safety Plan?
Seeing none, is there a motion to approve? Oh, wait, we should check for public comment.
Oh. Sha-la-la-la.
Sorry.
Seeing none.
Now do you want to play?
I can't, I buzzed in too soon.
Okay, now you can. Go for it.
I'll move.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Katie.
Hope,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Josh,
Yes.
Katie,
Yes.
Nurali,
Yes.
Shannon.
Yes.
Thank you. I don't have any we'll have your academic.
We will bring the academic report back as a future agenda item, or it'll actually be part of the executive director's report. We'll bring that back next month.
That's really all I can think of at this juncture.
Yes.
Yes.
In the April 6th meeting, we will have our governance onboarding committee in the audience for a portion of that.
Yes.
Any other future agenda items?
No. And there will be. There
Yeah.
are certainly going to be future items. Those are the notable ones for right now.
You want to rock some reflection?
Let's rock some reflection.
What made this meeting work well for you, or what would have been better if? First person to go wins nothing.
I'm going to thank Shannon and Josh for finding a way to get here tonight
Yeah.
so we could have a meeting. As we noted during Steve's presentation, we had a very firm deadline in approval of the second interim, and so we would have had to have a meeting in the next week anyway. But I just appreciate that we were able to have it tonight as scheduled.
Yeah, thanks, team. Can we go that way, Josh? What worked well, or what would have been better if?
I miss the rest of our board members. I
been
know
better
there's
than
more
ever.
of us out there. I know it's raining sideways.
Yeah.
But I miss the rest of our faces and inputs and voices on the board at the meetings.
Agreed, Shannon?
I really liked hearing the strategic actions around leadership and just putting that into action and seeing some of the tangible things that are already coming out of that are working well, and I'm excited to see how that continues to progress over the next 2 years.
Excellent. Steve, you want to play?
Sure. I was excited with the wave update. I know Amber couldn't be here, but they do such fantastic
Yeah.
work, and it's so exciting to hear all the things that are coming up. And the fireworks booth is back, and it's just super exciting. So a shout out to Amber and the wave team.
Yeah, I love it. Nurali?
So I appreciate, I know Dr. Ike, you had sent us an email about the updates regarding Emily's transition to her new role, and really putting that and discussing it further here. I really do appreciate us being fully involved when changes like that happen and really sharing that information. So when we do run into Emily, which I do quite often, I'm able to, be aware of that and really be able to thank her for her work.
Very good, very good, thank you. Katie Davis, what worked well or what would have been better if?
What worked well, I liked seeing the strategic plan, the board, or your goals, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Those noted, just as we think about everything we do being mission and vision aligned, as we work towards our strategic plan, our goals, and your goals, I think it's really helpful to see those noted. It keeps us focused.
Yeah, I think we should all read the strat plan every once in a while, or more often. I don't know, I was doing some reading of the strat plan this week, and I looked ahead to 2030, our goals for 2030, and I had a moment of like, hey, way to go, us. We're like on track for 2030. It felt really good. Sean?
So I was kind of going to say the same thing that Katie said. So I will reiterate my thanks to Steve, because whenever he presents, that works well. So,
true.
it makes the finance committee look good and makes our jobs a heck of a lot easier.
I love that, love that. Hey, Deb, what worked well about this meeting, or what would have worked better if?
I've said this before, but I always appreciate Steve's making the numbers make sense to my head, which does not understand numbers or budgets. But it always gives me a sense of calm to know that he is paying the bills.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. I think what worked well, I just want to give a shout out to Jessica Block, who's our technology TOSA. Look, the fact that we are in this room together, I'm so glad that we could all be here, but the fact that we're publicly accessible through YouTube and email, I think it works well that people can watch us do our work, but they couldn't make it down here through the rainstorm, so that worked well for me.
On the board website, there is still the link for us to provide feedback and comment as work occurs in alignment with the strategic plan. And I every so often go to that form and fill it out. Is that something, as the board maybe takes this opportunity to review the strategic plan, John, you would be interested in having us still maybe put input in if we have it?
Oh, yeah, sorry, I was trying to track where you were. I know exactly where you were.
Sorry.
Yeah, I would love to do a regular strategic plan feedback. In fact, I just did one with admin this week. It's right here on the board website on the strategic plan page. And so if you go to the strategic plan page, you'll recall the strategic plan is on the left-hand side, and you could look and go, oh, that's right, I love this this planned action right here that we will use creative methods to recruit and retain, amazing staff members. Then you can go over here and go, gosh, I think this week they went to a job fair. You could say, well, I'm one of the board members, and under goal area 1, and then you can start filling out the form here. Goal area 1, objective 1, we went to this job fair and it was awesome, and you hit submit right there. So yes, board members, if you see strategic actions taking place within the community that you connect with, you are more than welcome to submit them here, because this is a great way for us to, and as you've talked about in the past, all of our responses are down here. If you go to like a view all, there's literally, hundreds and hundreds of time-stamped conversations regarding our goals and what we're doing toward them.
I just mentioned I'm not the best about doing it. I probably only do it quarterly, but it is a great way to sort of get your feet wet again and to look at it and see what might fit if something strikes you. It's just really an extension of the celebrations that we tend to do here anyway.
Yeah,
So.
and if you wanted to, utilize even in the admin meeting, I do a 5-minute timer. If we want to do in the boardroom, hey, everybody, we're doing 5 minutes. Fill this out. It'd be well worth our time, I think. Yeah, I love that. Thanks, Hope.
Okay. With that completes reflection. At this point in time, we are going to go into closed session. Tonight's closed session is a conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation for OAH case number 2023020674.
Very good. So anybody on the YouTubes, I'm going to put you on mute and give you a slide that says we'll be back in a minute. A-Dub, you may leave.
John, do we anticipate any report out from tonight?
I believe that we will have to do a report out from tonight.
Okay.
And so we're going to keep this rolling. And you can all turn off your computers though. The only computer that has to stay on is mine, and I'll mute it out so that we're not broadcasting. If you're on the YouTubes, stand by. We'll be back, I promise. So there's a mute there. There's a chicka there. There's a mic there. Everybody go ahead and look at your mic and make sure your mics are off. Not that I think they're doing anything more. I want to make sure. Check one, check two. Oh, there we go. I got the mic back on. Thank you for waiting during our closed session. While the entire board is still in the room, we only had Board President Golick log back on. Board President Golick, you have the floor.
At this time, we have no report out of closed session.
Thank you. And at what time is it now?
It is now 8:44 p.m.
And we will
Adjourn.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.